You start streaming, you go live. Click the go live button. I have no
You're
idea
just
if
going for it, aren't you?
I'm just fucking going for it. I think I just went live.
Just
I
go
don't
for
know.
it.
Let me
I haven't
see.
seen anything yet. There it is. Oh yeah, yeah.
Always behave. Once you hit go live, always behave as if it's live until proven wrong and you feel like an ass.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. And we are live. Fuck it. We're doing it live, kids. We're doing it
I see
live.
it.
I'm not
Oh, I see it.
I'm not sharing anything out. I'm not linking this shit. Oh god, what am I
I
doing?
This
see
ain't
you.
scripted. This is just straight off the cuff. Holy shit.
I'm copying links. I shall post them in the Discords.
Yep, and we're going live. And apparently, what was it? Somebody found the last live stream.
That was
Yeah.
Khonshu.
Yeah, yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
he gets mad if you call him that anymore.
I know. But
Oh,
I don't know who knows him as his current tag.
We have somebody in chat. I don't know. They haven't said anything. I'm scared. What am I doing?
We're
We're sitting around with a thumbs up our ass trying to learn a new mechanic.
Yep, fuck it. We're doing it live.
We're doing this while critiquing a video.
Oh God, yes, and we have no idea how to play this video. Hey, chill. Hey, sir. Thanks a lot.
You may have. You may have to share it through your screen. I don't know.
Yeah. Screen share is probably going to be your friend.
Yeah.
And just professional advice: keep Discord minimized, or keep the current voice chat as the channel you're on.
Yeah, I'm not switching it over to any other channels.
All right.
I don't suppose you've seen a link or anything. We're still working on that, aren't we? It doesn't matter. I can go off this video.
No, I've been sharing a link. I've been sharing links.
Oh God. Hey kids, we're doing it live. I have no idea what the fuck I'm doing, but we're doing it.
We're going this. We're
Oh yeah, it's even capturing my mouse as it wiggles around as I try to figure out exactly how I can minimize the voice chat without just throwing OBS and my YouTube creator dashboard all over the fucking screen.
All the important information on your live dashboard should be censored via the in-browser settings. So all people are going to be able to nab off of that are how you have it set up for yourself to play, and the link to the stream itself.
Okay, so they'll see a bunch of ugly bullshit. Got it.
They will see a bunch of ugly bullshit.
Okay, there we go. Actually, you know what? That works. I can just have it like that. Pop over to get off that.
And
we'll go to this one, YouTube, because we're going to Erasmus's video. Oh, why am I doing this?
And I am currently sitting pretty in your video and watching the chat with you. That way I can assist in watching the chat and just overall help us out a little bit while I myself try to learn what I need to.
God, I don't even remember what his channel was, so I'm going to...
Ignorasmus.
Yeah, I'm subscribed to him somewhere, but... as everyone gets to watch me like stumble around, and I'm just going over to Data's channel. I'm going to pop up a Data video. Here's a Data video that's dealing with Erasmus. Yay. We'll go ahead and pause that. Scroll down.
Free plug for Adam, though.
Yeah.
A free plug, yeah.
Here we pop over to Erasmus's original video, straight to his channel. I'm not even playing it. Okay, I am on Erasmus's channel. I'm at his videos.
Hey, you have to play Adam's video for a minimum of 5 seconds so it gets the viewer count.
Oh, well then I'm going to go ahead and go back. Go back.
There it is. 2 rows down, 3 rows over.
All right, everyone.
Now,
We're back today to look at the second half of Erasmus's video on creation versus evolution.
Oh,
We left off with the
Erasmus's
watchmaker
video on
argument,
his channel
which I
when
have
you were...
never found.
Yeah, but I went and played your video for 10 seconds.
You can hear his video, don't worry.
Okay, so it's all...
You can hear everything that is coming out of your headset right now.
Okay, so evolution is the greatest lie ever told. This is what we're watching?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I hate you people. I hate you people. Okay. You can see I've
you
made
all
it...
do.
Echo. Oh my god, so much echo.
All the echo?
Continue.
Oh,
Oh,
how
don't
bad?
mind me. That's on my end. No, that's me on my end. I was playing the
Oh.
live stream and Discord at the same time, and I was just,
That was a mistake.
wow, that was a trip. That was a horrible mistake.
As you can
I don't
see,
want to do that ever again.
I've tried to watch this video before, and I've made it precisely 1 minute and 11 seconds in.
Oh, you made it that far? Holy
Yeah.
shit.
Yeah, okay, so we're going back to 0.
Mr. Adam Skeptic made a response video to my
Alright.
video, Creationism versus Evolutionism.
Thanks. I'm
His
pretty
video was
sure I'm
titled,
going to
"What
be downing
exactly
the
is
rest of
evolution?"
my liquor tonight because of this.
You are. Oh, you are.
Oh, God. Are we ready for this? I don't think we're ready. Are we ready?
Go for it. Do it. Just
Dank, get
bite
the
the bullet
popcorn,
and
get
fucking
the
do
beer,
it.
and here we go.
Mr. Adam Skeptic made a response video to my video, Creationism versus Evolutionism. His video was titled, "What exactly is evolution?" I hope to answer his question in this video.
To be clear,
I'm having a bit of a hard time hearing.
My volume settings are...
All right. No, that was my Discord. That was my Discord setting. Sorry.
Okay. So, I'm going to take a moment just to enjoy the entire Windows within Windows within Windows for eternity on OBS. And then we're going back.
MC Escher.
Yep. Okay, here we go.
before I continue, I would prefer if you do visit his channel to be as polite and reasonable as possible. Something I failed to do initially in our interactions on Twitter, and as a result, it almost stonewalled the discussion.
Data, you were way too nice to him.
I was. What's your timestamp right now so I can sync up?
22 seconds.
22 seconds. Give me, let me get there.
Wait,
All right, that'll work.
there's a way we can do this together. Hold on.
Yes, please. That would be great.
Google...
I know the biggest way that we did it was through Discord last time, but that leads to further complications.
No, there's watch together. Watch videos together.
No,
Oh,
I don't
yes.
know about that because I'm all about D&D and settings are already set up on my PlayStation.
I have created a room to watch together. Now I just need to grab Erasmus's video link. It's right there. Copy. We go over
Are you in the
here.
Discord right now for this?
Why is it playing? Don't play that. That's not what I want. No, it's a website. Literally,
okay.
it's a website. Watch together. Now I need to figure out how to invite people. Here we go. Copy.
I figured.
Copy.
All right. Sweet.
Pop up into the Discord. Shit. Data, I'm going to jump over to your Discord to drop this, alright?
All right, cool.
Boom. I'll drop over to yours. I'm going to drop it in collaboration.
Sounds good.
Can do.
That way we can all grab it, and then it can be deleted quickly.
Well,
No, we're
it's
the
only
only
us
ones that
five
can
that
get in
can
there.
see it.
Oh, it's
Yeah.
only us? Perfect.
Yeah. It's set up for moderators, patrons, and, me and you and whoever else I decide to set up as a collaborator.
All right. And apparently there's even a little... Oh, I see people. I see people. Are you on the
Mr.
webpage?
Adam's Creationism versus
I see the video,
All right.
I see the video too.
All right.
and I do not need to see his images, so
He's got shitty images. And here we go.
it looks like
Evolutionism. His video was titled, "What exactly is evolution?" I hope to answer his question in this video.
To be clear,
Why does he keep calling it evolution? It's evolution.
I don't know.
he's trying to be edgy.
And apparently this thing has a chat pop up, so nifty.
Yeah.
But so he keeps calling it evolution. Here's Data being way too nice to him.
before I continue,
Way
I
too
would
nice.
prefer if you do visit his channel to be as polite and reasonable as possible. Something I failed to do initially in our interactions on Twitter, and as a result, it almost stonewalled the discussion.
I thought I would respond to this, even though he's not making a point. I would just like to say thank you, Mr. Adam Skeptic. I really appreciate you saying this at the beginning. A lot of people don't watch till the end of the video, and hopefully anyone that was inclined to come over and leave a rude or hateful comment decided against it, knowing that you wouldn't have approved of it.
Okay, one, why did he have to stretch that out so much? And two, what makes you a goddamn authority to decide what people do?
I have no idea.
I don't get it. And why did he have to stretch it
I
out
don't
so
know.
much?
I also promise that more than half the people we know would probably react first and listen to Adam second, if at all.
Yeah, probably. I'm not a very big influence.
You also generally don't give a shit what we do, as long as we don't directly drag you into it.
Yeah, that's pretty true.
Yep.
That actually tracks.
Except
You
I'm
guys
gonna
do
be
you,
dragging your ass
and
into this shit now.
well, that's unfortunate, but these things happen.
Scotch that tastes like rum. Let's hit play.
Continue.
As my regular audience can see, there is a lot to unpack here. Setting aside for the moment that the existence of God is irrelevant to evolution,
I wanted to address his claim, even though it was not elaborated on. I would agree that you could believe in an abstract version.
Hold on. He wanted to address the fact that God wasn't necessary for evolution, but you didn't. What kind of elaboration does that need?
No, he's talking about me. I set that aside and never came back to it, so I had to address that in another video. And the rant was a much better flow of that. But basically, what I wound up telling him was that the existence of God is irrelevant because it doesn't matter if a God exists or not. Evolution is still a demonstrable fact. We can see it. We can show it. We can control through artificial selection, which uses the same principles as natural selection to get the results that we want. It's a fucking fact of fucking biology. There's no debate here at all.
Oh.
Before we get back into the video, I want to just say one thing as a editing point of view, as a way of keeping your point more succinct without any issues on the viewer side. The audio from Adam's video is still playing while Erasmus is talking, and that's, for someone like myself who has auditory issues, it's very distracting. So if you could do a hard cut of the audio rather than talking over Adam,
that would
would help greatly.
Yeah, except he doesn't care. I mean, you've seen his 100 questions videos.
I have not.
Oh God, no! Watch the stream I posted.
It's also because I don't have a channel to do that. I just have my gaming channel.
Watch the stream I posted over on Data's server.
I was going to, and that's why I started drinking tonight.
You're gonna need it.
I got the question
you
9.
Coming, didn't you?
Oh God, no! I went into that shit blind. Oh, all right, hit play.
Abstract version of God and still believe in evolution. However, if you are a Christian and you believe that everything the Bible says is the literal word of God, as I do, it is clearly relevant to evolution. God describes...
Okay, so he's a biblical literist, young earth creationist, flat earther science denier.
Yeah, don't forget anti-vaxxer.
And anti-vaxxer. Okay, keep that in mind as we hit play.
Creating each animal according to their kind, as seen in Genesis chapter 1, verse 24. And God said, "Let the land produce living creatures according to their kinds, the livestock, the creatures that move along the ground, and the wild animals, each according to its kind." And it was so. There you go.
we need to start.
What?
By some unholy miracle that I managed to keep this under control. Be aware I have dissociative identity disorder. Do the research of yourself if you need details. I apologize if I have an outburst. I cannot control my outbursts, and they will fucking scream. I have a fossil in my closet right now that does not match anything that has existed anywhere during biblical history.
Jesus Christ, this guy is stupid.
It doesn't get much better.
No, it probably gets worse. Congratulations, I've now made it farther in this video than I have the first time.
It's because you have friends
might
to help
regret
you out.
that.
Yeah, let's hit play.
I say
Keep
help, but it's
going.
more like peer pressure.
Yep. Yep. And apparently the chat's kind of enjoying it.
The usage of the word kind. I've covered this before, but it bears repeating here. The word kind is a problem because it has no...
Well, that's an old video.
My counter-argument is that this is not a problem. Evolutionary taxonomy is incorrect anyway, so it doesn't surprise me that there is...
Wait, what? Did he just say evolutionary taxonomy?
He's saying... He's saying that evolutionary taxonomy is correct. Now, the only way that he can show that is to show created kinds, which means that he has to show two taxa that are completely unrelated to each other at all.
Yep.
He can't do that.
Yeah, it's not going to happen. Why is he trying to claim evolutionary taxonomy is wrong?
Oh, you should. Oh God. He needs to show that, and you'll love what he says next.
Equivalent label. I believe that taxonomy needs to adapt to the creationist viewpoint of kinds as...
What?
Yep, he believes that taxonomy should adapt to kinds, which is a completely arbitrary taxon that even Ken Ham will walk back to the order or further if it suits his needs. It's an arbitrary thing to them.
So bats
it doesn't
are
mean
birds
shit.
and locusts.
That's the thing. It doesn't mean shit if you can move it anywhere and anywhere. It's a completely useless term.
It's a goalpost moving tactic. That's all it is.
All it is that goalpost as far back as he wants to take it, but he ain't gonna like where that fucking thing winds up.
Except that the biggest problem is that completely invalidates kinds is that bats are, according to kinds, birds and locusts, where they're neither. A bat is not a bird.
Yep.
A bat is not a locust.
Oh, it gets better.
Oh,
well, technically, bat's not a bird either, but we'll get to that in a different point.
I just said a bat's not a bird.
I thought you said a... Alright, I misheard you, my bad.
Yeah, a bat is not a bird. A bat is not a locust. Oh, hitting play.
As opposed to us adapting to theirs.
There is a reason we bring up bacteria, fruit flies, and my personal favorite, the Galapagos finches. Yes, when we say they are different species of finch, we are aware that they are still finches. Evolution does not demand that they turn into something else the way that you might think.
Okay, so here's where my biggest issues lie. Evolution actually does claim that a creature can become one of a different kind. Example, science claims that dinosaurs...
Wait, what?
It's another goalpost move. It's...
This is going back to that fucking video I responded to last night where he's like, have you ever seen a dog become a horse?
Yeah, and actually, he took it a step further. The way that he worded it originally was that a dog and a cat should be able to crossbreed, kind of thing.
Yeah, no.
But he went full on fucking way off the deep end here when he clarified that a dog or a cat should be able to produce one or the other, and that a horse or a cow should be able to produce one or the other, which is neither allowed by nor demanded by evolutionary biology. This shows a complete... I mean, if he'd stuck with his original video that I was covering, that would have been just a simple misunderstanding, and I could have dealt with that pretty easily, but he took it a step further into full-on, full-blown fucking ignorance of the subject in its entirety. Dogs and cats don't flip-flop. They're in different sister clades. They have a common ancestor, but they don't produce one or the other.
It's almost
it's
like
this weird thing where he thinks evolution should produce the things that, you know... I mean, we've all heard the whole, you know, dogs produce dogs thing, but at the same time, he thinks that dogs should, if evolution were true in his mind, dogs should be able to produce cats and horses should be able to produce cows or vice versa, and that's not the way this shit works at all.
That's a grade school misunderstanding of...
That would completely falsify evolution.
It's a grade school misunderstanding, and granted, when I was much younger, when I first learned that I could be a paleontologist back in like first grade, I didn't understand all this stuff. Then again, I was a fan of Pokemon since pretty much I was born.
And
So evolution was not an odd thing for me.
And apparently we're now the three drunks to tears. Thank you, Snail. Hail, Snail.
Well, here's the thing. It's weird. I mean, I'm hearing all this shit, but it sounds really, really bad coming from his mouth because he's incredibly young. I mean, I would place him in his early 20s. He doesn't know shit about life. He doesn't know anything about science. He has been conditioned from day fucking one to reject all this crap. To reject every bit of evidence that stands against his religious convictions. And it's frustrating as shit because I have to try to present this in a way that will get the science through, but at the same time leave his religious convictions mostly intact. I mean, hell, if you want to believe in a god, that's fine. You can prop up a god behind evolution and just say evolution is the method that God used to get the diversity that we have. I don't have a problem with that because it doesn't ignore the blatant evidence that we have. But when you take it that step further into young earth creationism or creationism in general, where you just reject science for fucking fantasy, we have a problem. Because now I have to question your belief structure and I have to poke holes in it because you have an irrational emotional attachment to something that is not rooted in reality. Oh. I don't like to do that. I want to impart this knowledge as a teacher. I don't, as much as I would love to, in general, I try to avoid becoming Sergeant Adam. I really do.
No. Oh no, he needs a good
I try to avoid it.
He needs a good ass chewing. But
the only reason that the original video covering this particular one, my response to this video, the only reason the original response to this video is not out there to the public right now is because my wife and Snail reeled me in hard.
No, release it. Release
I am so sorely tempted to, but I'm not going to lie, if I were to release that video, it would destroy any future discourse with not just Erasmus, but everyone going forward. Because I'm not going to lie, you guys have seen it. Sergeant Adam doesn't give a flying fuck about your feelings. This is it. When Sergeant Adam comes into play, it goes well beyond teaching. It goes to, I'm going to instruct you in this, and you are not going to like it. If Erasmus saw the video that I made originally, he would never talk to me again. And he's a young kid. I want to try to help him. As frustrating as it is.
Personally,
I just want
to... As frustrating as it is.
Personally, seeing that he's not much younger than me, I really have no room to wiggle with him. I have a cousin that is 15 who understands evolution more, and he is a creationist. He understands evolution more because he decided to research it before deciding he prefers his religion. That's all it is.
To put this into perspective, I don't know how old Erasmus is, but I put him in his early 20s because all of his life experiences that he's cited thus far are pulling from high school.
Yep.
I'm in my mid-30s. I'm closer to 40
26.
I'm closer to 40 than I am 20.
Yeah, I'm closer to 40 than not. So my life experiences are pulling from, life.
Uh-huh.
So, I'm trying to avoid destroying this kid's psyche. Because if I wanted to, you guys have seen it. I know you have. If I wanted to, I could just lay into him and just completely just let loose, unleash the beast. Because I'm a sergeant of Marines. Your feelings don't matter to me. What matters is the facts, and God damn it, I'm gonna get those through your skull one way or the other. I'm trying to avoid going full Sergeant Adam,
Oh,
and I really want to. And the only reason that I have not completely unleashed, and the only reason that I have not completely unleashed the beast is because I'm reserving that for people like Hovind and Ham and Comfort and people that just consistently make money on this and don't give a fuck.
oh, that reminds me. I
I'll
really
unleash
need
the
to,
beast on them.
I really
So-
need to
And
finish
as-
my part of the next Hogan script.
And actually, after we move on from day one, since the script is mostly set, after we move on from that, I'm to the point where I'm just about to unleash the beast because I don't give a fuck.
So in short, you'd rather save that temper, save that anger and quote-unquote damage for people who are actually causing damage, rather
Yes.
than those who are just ignorant.
People that are ignorant or have been misled, I am willing to work with. I'm willing to try to meet them where they are. But people like Hovind and Ham that actually profit off of this shit,
Alucard, I heard
care.
that model share.
I don't care. I will
Yep.
destroy them without mercy going forward.
Yeah.
Hovind and Ham, they get the unfiltered, unrestricted version of me. But people like Erasmus that have simply been misled and have been told various things that they may not have researched very well or have not expanded upon their sources into more mainstream scientific realms, the peer-reviewed journals and all that stuff. Google Scholar is your friend. If you're that kind of guy that has simply been misled and has simply been fed this stuff by these people that we know to be wrong, I'm willing to give you some leeway. But that patience only goes so far. I'm about to the point where I'm going to employ a 3-strike rule. If you ignore what I tell you, if you just blatantly ignore it, as he has done here,
Multiple
if
times.
you blatantly ignore it and you blow me off 3 times,
Yep.
you're going to get Sergeant Adam unrestricted and unfiltered because at that point you're not listening and I don't care about your feelings anymore.
Yep.
I'm trying to help teach a subject as it is as it's intended, I'm trying to impart knowledge. And if you ignore me on the same thing 3 times, you are going to get your mind ripped apart.
Oh, well, on that lovely
The
note-
original footage that you both have seen is going to be what I'm going to resort to.
Yep.
Because I'll be perfectly honest, that first cut, it rolled so well. It felt so good
yes.
to just let loose.
Oh, yes, it was beautiful.
Oh, it was amazing. But I'm trying to avoid that with the regular everyday person because they have been misled, and I acknowledge that. They have been lied to. And I use that term in the most accurate sense I can. They have been lied to.
They have.
And I
When they
understand
start-
that.
When they're handed facts and information, and they just completely disregard it to go, yeah, no, but this person told me this. It's like, yeah, but no, I'm handing you facts. You can go check these.
You know what? Keep going. Keep going. I'll show you. You've seen it. You know where I lose my fucking mind.
Yep.
Keep going.
Okay, on this lovely note, let's hit play on this video because we've only made it 2 minutes.
Oh, let's keep going.
Became birds. If you don't believe me, I will leave a source for this in the description. This is a quote from the article. Quote, "It is an unlikely relationship, but the humble pigeon is a direct descendant of the group of dinosaurs that includes the
playing
mighty T-Rex."
on my
So
end.
evolution actually does claim that a creature
I think it
can
might
turn
have
into
been because I let the screen go dim. I don't
something
know.
totally
Oh,
different.
yeah,
Birds are
don't
not
let the screen dim
dinosaurs. You may believe they used to be dinosaurs, but it is an incontrovertible fact that dinosaurs are not birds.
The
Timestamp.
examples you cited of crossbreeding a dog and a cat or
Are you still in the watch with me? Watch together?
Yeah, I'm still there. Yeah, I'm still
We
there.
should be at 227 now.
I don't even get a timestamp anymore. Holy shit, I really fucked that up. Hold on, let me jump out and jump back in.
Yep. Technical difficulties. We're doing this live, kids.
Hey,
No,
here's
we're
the thing.
learning as we go.
We're also not taking this too seriously,
Oh,
because
no.
otherwise
Alright,
we'd be
press-
ripping into him more. But
Press
this
play
is a
real
good
quick, would you?
chance
So
for
I
us
see
to
where
learn.
we're at.
A horse and a cow is not what evolution
All right, there we go.
is and would
All
break
right.
the law of monophyly in particular. Such a thing happening would disprove evolution and not be evidence for it. Let me explain.
Before I let you explain, I want to say this. You are not accurately
you let me
representing
explain.
what the article was saying. The article was not talking about...
Wait, so he just interrupts you and interrupts your point to then straw man your point.
No.
This is the point where I effectively lost my shit.
Yeah.
And I've already explained why. So let's move past this to the next point that he tries to make.
All right, so I'm going to try jumping ahead a bit.
Frequency,
There we
better
go. We're just
described
gonna go
as
here.
descent with inherent genetic
Okay.
modification, meaning that each generation is slightly
Because
different
we
than
don't
its
need to
ancestor.
lose our shit right now.
You are not a carbon copy of your parents because of recombination of genetic material in the reproductive gamete cell,
Which is exactly
along
correct.
with an average of 120 mutations that are unique to you.
Mm-hmm.
These alleles determine your physical characteristics, such as eye color, skin tone, height, body size, etc. Now, I am fairly certain that you're having issue with the whole mutation thing.
I don't have an issue with the
Oddly
idea of
enough, he didn't.
mutations. This has been observed, and I know that they exist. My issue is how you define evolution. Let's listen.
Okay, so he
Oh yes,
acknowledges
please. Let's
mutations.
listen to let's listen to it again and see why he has an issue with it.
Okay.
Evolution, at its most basic level, is changes in allele frequency, better described as descent with inherent genetic modification, meaning that each generation is slightly different than its ancestors.
Now, obviously, this is a fact. Of course, I agree that diversification of kinds happens over time, when they are separated from each other for whatever reason. However, I disagree with this definition of evolution. Evolution claims that millions of years ago an amoeba formed spontaneously in the ocean. Eventually, they...
Wait, what? What?
It-
Did he just
evolution is
confabulate
not-
abiogenesis with evolution?
Yeah.
Evolution
yeah.
is not a standpoint on origin.
Yeah,
It never has been.
Evolution doesn't care where life came from.
That's the thing. Is that's the disconnect here. I mean, hell, you talked about this in the video with T. You know, we discussed this.
Yeah.
The definition of evolution as used by science, the evolution of a theory as used by science, is different from the colloquial sense. If he's going to debate this topic, he needs to stay in the fucking context.
Yeah.
And that
He needs to
threw me into a realm of pissed off I have very rarely seen,
This
because
little
that meant
cocksucker
that he
isn't even in the
completely
right
ignored it.
wheelhouse.
It's like me trying to debate the definition of a home run in football. Whether it's American or otherwise, debating a home run in football.
Yeah,
They're not the same thing, and they don't have the same basis. They have the same quote-unquote theme, which would be evolution and abiogenesis include life, but football and baseball include sports.
there's a ball in both.
It's
There's
weird,
all
you
the
know.
balls in life.
He said he doesn't agree with the theory of evolution. He doesn't agree with the definition. I don't give a fuck if he agrees with the definition or not. That's the definition that science has established. He works within that context, or he shuts the hell up.
He seems to think him not liking a definition means the definition is pointless and he can then apply whatever he wants to that word.
And that's incredibly dishonest.
But
Anyway, let's move on.
That's not how it works.
The amoeba became
No,
a fish that grew
it's
legs
not.
and walked up on land. The legged fish grew hair and became
That's
a
in part
monkey.
two.
That monkey
I
is
covered
the
that in part
evolutionary
two.
equivalent of Adam from the Garden of Eden. So you would think with such
No,
a
it's
ridiculous
not.
claim
God
that
damn it,
evolutionists
Adam
would
never
provide
existed.
some evidence that led them to this conclusion.
Oh,
But we see
Jesus
none,
Christ.
because there is
What?
none.
And even
What?
the ones that do have
What? Did he
That-
just claim no
a
evidence
lot
for
of-
evolution?
Here's the thing. When he did this video, he had not yet seen part 2.
That-
A lot of the stuff that he's bringing up here I cover in part 2. And I have not seen a response to that yet. So we're going to move on from here because it's not relevant to what I covered in this video.
Okay, moving on.
It's relevant for part 2.
Moving on.
Effect, whether they are good or bad, are generally suppressed by recombination with other sexual partners within the population, so it takes time for any noticeable change to become apparent. Notice that I'm using the words generations and populations. That is because evolution happens to populations and not individuals.
Yep.
A point I need to make very clear.
That's an
Evolution
obvious point.
doesn't work like popular culture has generally described it. X-Men, Star Trek, and other pop
Yeah, you
cultures
don't
that
get
try to implement
X-Men.
evolution into
No
the
laser
storyline
eyes.
wind up getting it wrong. in
No,
some
you
way,
don't.
usually
Not from a single
horribly so.
fucking mutation.
So basically, in this
not
clip,
at
you talk
all.
about how evolution doesn't happen to individuals.
Wait for
It
it.
happens to generations and populations. I don't know if you know this, but that actually makes evolution less plausible. Why is it that large groups all evolve similar traits, but some decided not to? A large group of monkeys decided to
Pause
become
it.
humans, but some decided not to for some
Pause
reason.
it.
And I understand that you
He seems to think that evolution. No, let me clarify here. He seems to think that evolution is a decision on the part of the population that is changing. That's not the
how
case.
it
This is
works.
not a conscious driven effort. This is
That's not how this works.
unique
That's
changes.
not how any of this works.
Yeah, it's unique change, and I explained this in the video responding to this. It's changes in those populations that set them on a different path than the parent group. That's all it is.
Even if you tried to breed for these changes, it's not going to happen because genetics, to put it rather simply, is fucking weird. It's not going to work out exactly how you want to. Because
Yes, you're still, even with artificial selection,
you're only spreading half of your DNA to your partner, who's giving the other half of theirs
even
to
with
the child. You don't choose.
even with artificial selection, there's still trial and error. Natural selection takes longer than artificial selection because artificial selection, we can go, okay, we got these traits. We need to do this here to breed these pair when they get of age. Natural selection doesn't work like that. Natural selection is spread across an entire population to the point where even if there's a beneficial mutation, it may not be selected for due to that recombination with the parent population. What he's saying about, a group of apes suddenly deciding to become human is not what happened. It's not a decision based on the group. It is literally random.
And just real quick, so he doesn't try to use it as a gotcha. Gorillas, monkeys, they didn't become humans. Humans are apes.
Yes.
We are apes. We evolved alongside monkeys and other primates.
Great apes
Not
do
on the
not
same
become
path.
humans. Humans are great
Yes.
apes.
And I do cover that in part 2 in more detail because he has a sixth point that he brings up, which takes up the majority of the second part of this video and is why I had to divide it into 2 parts.
Oh, Jesus. You guys realize
Yeah, if
we're
you haven't
only-
seen that.
Yes, I do.
You realize...
Don't
Oh,
tell
yeah.
me how far we are.
At this point, a lot of his objections are covered in the second video. He just jumps the gun a little bit here and thinks that I haven't addressed them when it's part of the next bit that I'm getting into.
Oh,
We can move on from here.
I'm betting he's still gonna...
The only point that he made that was worth addressing was the fact that he thinks it's a decision on the part of the population, as in, we want to be smarter and less hairy and use tools, so we're going to do this. No, that's not how it works.
Yeah. And how long has the stream been going? And we're only 5.5 minutes into his video. We're going to hit play, guys. We're going to hit play. And
When we're covering
And I'm going to pour another shot.
when we're covering this kind of stuff, it takes time to correct this shit.
Oh, it's so bad.
Which is why I had to split the original video into 2 parts, because it takes time.
It's so bad. He in 30 seconds says something that requires
That takes
us
5 minutes to properly correct and explain. I know. I get it, man. It's painful. Press play.
Play.
happens over a long period of time. But isn't that convenient? But I really want to address the part where you say that most
There's
forms of
nothing
pop culture
convenient
get it
about
horribly
evolution.
wrong. I think that movies and TV shows represent evolution for what it actually is. So I disagree that they are horribly misrepresenting evolution.
So
Let's
he
continue.
thinks X-Men
As
is
an example,
evolution.
let's look at the Galapagos
Yeah.
finches.
Okay,
I'm going
let's
to
pause
summarize
this real
a bit
quick
here,
because
but
this
the
is
assessment
something that really pissed me off.
He thinks X-Men is goddamn evolution.
It's not just that. He thinks that pop culture in general gets evolution correct. As in, if you're an X-Man, you have this X gene that makes you have laser eyes or be able to teleport or break the laws of physics in any other number of
That's
ways
not
that
how it
their
works.
powers generally do.
That's not how this works. That's not how any of
No,
this
it's
works.
not. It's not. So the example that I chose to go with in my answer to this particular video was from a Star Trek episode, a couple of them actually, one of which I did in a little bit of detail. Genesis from the 7th season of The Next Generation. Now, at some point,
Oh, you did
because of
the episode where Barkley turns into a spider, didn't you?
turns into a fucking spider. Yeah, he turns into a half man, half spider kind
Yeah.
of thing. Well, spiders or arachnids in general are not in our direct line of
Yeah, 'cause
descent, so
Barkley's
it makes
human. That was
absolutely
bullshit.
no. Yeah, it makes absolutely no sense that Barkley would turn into some freakish spider amalgamation of a human. That's not at all what would happen. What would have happened is when Picard and Data returned,
Mm-hmm.
they would have noticed slight somatic changes in the DNA.
Yeah,
not
but not in the
wholesale
expression.
fucking changes.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, not expression, not wholesale changes in the expression of these genes. They wouldn't have seen Barkley as a half spider. Worf wouldn't have turned into a predator. And Troy wouldn't have turned into a fucking frog.
Yep, and Riker wouldn't have been a fucking Neanderthal.
At the very most, they would have seen, as they lived their lives, these genes begin to express through cell division and mutation and things like that. They would have seen things that they would have been like, oh, shit, we need to treat that. It's because of this, and we can fix that pretty easily. And it would not have happened within 3 days.
Yeah. Most likely, you
even
wouldn't
if
have
it-
seen any changes until one of them had a child.
Even if those changes had not happened to that extent where they would have been like, well, hell, you need a hypo spray for that, they would have noticed in utero some weird changes in their children.
Yep,
And that's assuming that it got to the gamete cells.
yep.
All of the viral infection would have likely targeted just the somatic, regular, everyday cells that you have. It wouldn't have gotten to the gamete cells. It's
Yep.
very rare that it does that. But that and Threshold from, I think, if I'm remembering right, the 2nd season of Voyager,
Mm-hmm.
that was fucking stupid because Paris, he couldn't process oxygen.
Yep.
He's from a planet that is comprised of an oxygen-nitrogen atmosphere.
Uh-huh.
He developed an allergy to water, for fuck's sake.
That's
What
not
the
true.
hell is
Yeah.
going on? How is that? The doctor's holographic program should have just shut the fuck down out of that fucking bullshit.
Yep. Just been
That
like,
should
"This
not
is
have happened
stupid."
at all.
I feel out of place because I never watched him. I never watched it at all.
Yeah, well,
Voyager
yeah,
2nd season Threshold.
watch
I,
it.
I've
As
never
Tom
watched
Paris
any
going-
Star Trek.
Watch it.
Okay, so to put this into perspective, there's faster than light travel, right?
That's a common sci-fi
Warp
thing.
10, Warp 10 is like light speed is to us. Okay, you can't go past that, no matter what.
Until
but
you suddenly
he finds a
can,
way-
and it's like Warp 15.
He finds a way to do it. And when he does, when he gets done, he suddenly gets sick. Okay? His fucking tongue falls out, for fuck's sake. He stops being able, the pilot of the shuttle starts going through some weird-ass accelerated, and I'm using this term loosely, evolution. Because he can no longer process oxygen, and he fucking dies for like 2 minutes.
And he turns into a fish.
And he turns into a goddamn salamander.
All right, I
Okay.
feel like you may be getting off point right now.
No, it's completely to the point because he thinks that pop culture gets evolution right.
Yep.
Pop culture doesn't get evolution right at all. They butcher the fuck out of it because they generally don't know what the fuck they're talking about, and that's the problem. He thinks that something like Voyager's Threshold episode
Got
or
it right.
or Next Generation's Genesis episode somehow got it right. Both of those episodes, at the very least, break the law of monophyly, and beyond that, it just doesn't fucking work. That's not how evolution works at all. There's no excuse for that. It is completely inexcusable that he thinks that pop culture is an accurate representation of evolution, which he states later on.
Oh, let's hit play. We're going to hit play and listen to your beautiful explanation of the Galapagos finches and see what he has to say.
On the archipelago about 1 million or so years
Please
ago.
continue.
Yes, I can hear you protesting, but give me a minute here. We have a lot of information to cover, and I will be getting into how we know that in a bit. All of this is actually relevant. Now, the finches wound up in a pretty...
Adam Skeptic made a response video to my video, Creationism versus Evolutionism. His video was titled, What Exactly is Evolution? I hope to answer his question. This monkey is the evolutionary equivalent of Adam from the Garden of Eden. So you would think with such a ridiculous...
Yeah, now we're on the same track here.
We were over here somewhere.
Yeah, the only thing I clicked on was the volume because I was mildly hoping to turn it up just for myself.
There we go.
I don't want to be messing with Discord for myself.
My screen went dark while I was going on my explanation.
Damn it, just moving with the
names. Over a long
names.
period of time. But isn't that convenient? But I really want to address the part where you say that most forms of pop culture get it horribly wrong. I think that movies and TV shows represent evolution for what it actually is. So I disagree that they are horribly misrepresenting evolution. Letlet's continue.
As an example, let's look at the Galapagos finches. I'm going to summarize a bit here, but the ancestral group of all these species wound up on the archipelago about 1 million or so years ago. Yes, I can hear you protesting, but give me a minute here. We have a lot of information to cover, and I will be getting into how we know that in a bit. All of this is actually relevant. Now, the finches wound up in a pretty sweet situation. An abundance of food with no natural predators since they were effectively an invasive species at the time.
Is it weird that I'm used to my voice now?
Across the whole archipelago, but
I'm
ran
still
into
not
another
used to
issue.
mine.
Competition for
It's
food.
actually great for your mental
This is
health
where
to
the
get
first
used to your
important
voice.
mechanism for evolution discovered comes into play: natural selection. There was a strong pressure introduced to find uncontested food sources, which is where we get the different beak shapes, in particular on all these finches.
That's why I love
Some
these
beak
finches.
shapes and sizes were more suited to certain types of food, so they started feeding exclusively on those sources. Since evolution works on populations, they started mating with those finches that shared their food supply because they were nearby. This is an important point. When you separate a population by geographic barriers or sexual preference, that suppression of mutations that we talked about earlier is relaxed, which accelerates the diversification and emergence of these beak shapes, forming a series of ring species. There are degrees of separations that we need to cover here. One group may be interfertile with neighboring groups and produce something that looks like a hybrid of the two. However, if they are not sexually preferred, they are a different subspecies because of that separation and lack of interest in breeding. If they remain separated and isolated for long enough, they are no longer interfertile and move from a subspecies to a new species.
A majority of this I have no problem with. In fact, this bit was actually the most interesting out of the whole video. I think that this happened almost exactly how you're saying it did, except of course for the part where you say that it happened over millions of years. It is the next point that you make that I have the biggest problem with.
Yes, they are still finches, but
what is
evolution
that?
does not demand.
Oh, sorry,
Keep going.
I'm grabbing a digitoid.
Oh, okay.
Sorry, keep going. Keep going. He's trying to
become something its ancestors were not, nor does it demand that the ancestral group go extinct.
Okay, evolution actually does demand that it become something that its ancestors were not, unless you're willing to concede that dinosaurs did not become birds and fish did not become monkeys.
Okay, now
holy shit!
I have to pause that right there. His claim that evolution demands you become something you were not. You cannot evolve out of what you are. You will always be what you are. Your ancestors will be what you are, even if they're different.
Exactly.
Even if they break off into a new family.
And I had to drive this point home in both of the videos that are released concerning this particular response that he made. Evolution does not demand that species turn into something else the way that he thinks they do. He completely ignored the explanation of the law of monophyly, whereas you
Yep.
cannot grow out of your ancestry.
Yep.
Humans will always be apes going forward, even if we create new clades as we develop, the same way that birds are still theropod dinosaurs.
Hey,
It's
let's
the same
introduce him to
fucking
what a
thing.
wing species is.
You're gonna kill the guy. His brain is
I'm
gonna
gonna have
short
to
circuit.
go. I'm gonna have to. I'm waiting patiently, and I'm hoping he brings it out Friday because he's got this whole thing set up for Friday.
Yeah, I'm so not
I'm
watching
hoping he. I'm gonna watch it because I'm actually hoping that he covers at the very least the second part of my video response to him, or at least touches on it because, God damn it, I'm.
that. You know, I'm kind of curious. I am a little curious because my first response to his 100 questions for atheists, my first 10 responses to his first 10 questions, he got into my comments and threatened a response video. So I'm kind of curious.
Oh, I hope he does. I really do.
It'd be fucking hilarious.
At this point, you and Dragon are far nicer than I could be. If I really wanted to, I would destroy all future discourse with this kid.
Oh, that's
because
so easy. Dude, I almost fucking burned a bridge that didn't even exist by going, hey, this guy's a gold mine.
Well, yeah, but that was in Twitter. I mean, I'm talking about a response video. You've seen the footage.
Oh, yeah.
I am not nice.
Oh, yeah. And he's a very sensitive little boy. He's so sensitive, and his feelings matter.
I don't know what it is. I was raised in a military culture. My dad was Navy. I've been on military bases my entire life. You grow thick skin, or you get screwed up.
Yep. All right, let's see what this idiot really has to say now.
The problem I have with evolution is not the mechanism itself, it's the fact that it claims that all life came from a single-celled amoeba. Where did the amoeba come from?
No, it doesn't. No, it fucking doesn't.
Wow, we
that
got
is not the case at all.
4 or 5 seconds further, and I had to pause this.
That's not what evolution claims at all. There's a distinct division that I cover in part 2 between, if I'm remembering correctly, it is eukarya, archaea, and bacteria.
Mm-hmm.
We didn't come from bacteria. What happened was, at that point where those first 3 main clades form, that's where the descendant-ancestor relationship begins, which is where evolutionary biology comes into play. Before that, it was a tangled web of fucking shit because there was a whole lot of horizontal gene transfer going on. So it's very difficult to pin down an ancestor-descendant relationship, which is what evolution uses. Evolution is descent with inherited genetic modification. And I cover this in part 2, and I fucking hope he covers it Friday because I'm getting fucking impatient.
Okay. Now we're going to make a resolve here, and we're going to play the video for 2 minutes.
I have to make one snarky comment.
Mm-hmm.
Amiibos are little toys Nintendo sold for video games.
Yes.
It's amiibos.
Yep.
Amiibos?
Amiibos are little toys from Nintendo meant for their consoles.
Yep. He's being grammatically pedantic. But before I hit play again, and we try to let this go for at least 2 fucking minutes, I just want to point out that this is an example of fractal wrongness. That this person is so wrong and incorrect that, well, they're just so incorrect, they're not even wrong. To be wrong, you have to have some idea of what you're talking about.
The problem here is that the subject isn't what he thinks it is. He's so wrong to the point that every argument he thinks he can employ to support his position is also wrong.
It's just fractal wrongness. The further he goes, the more wrong he becomes.
It's Hovind all over again. Mm-hmm. Son of a bitch, can't get away from the motherfucker. Press
Okay.
play. God
Yep,
damn it.
play. 2
God
minutes. 2 minutes.
damn it.
Go.
Amoeba come from, and how did the amoeba become all of life that we see around us today? Those are what my problems are.
A clade is a common
Part
ancestor in
2.
all of its descendants, living and extinct. And
I
they are
like your
nested in
graphics, by the
parental
way.
sets.
They're very simple.
The way
Thank
that we
you.
Concise,
determine
to the
these
point.
common characteristics to define clades
I never thought
is
I'd be
through
so
a few
happy to see
methods, such as
myself.
morphological character analysis, embryological
Hey, we're
development,
always happy to
and
see you as well.
Yes, because
sequencing,
now we can
all of
just
which
let
I
it
will go into
play
more
and go,
detail
yeah,
on
this
if
is
you
right.
wish. Using this image from this end to that end,
See?
and bearing in
Another
mind that I am
wonderfully
omitting
succinct,
literally
simple
dozens
graphic.
of named clades, we can see that we are, for example, animals.
Berkeley
because we are
University
multicellular
Evolution
organisms
101.
with a digestive tract
Yep.
that must ingest
It's like
and
all of
digest other
this.
organisms
Yes,
to
this
survive.
is all related.
If
All
it
of this
describes
is
you,
related.
it
All of
defines
this
you. Put
here
it
is
as simply
related.
as possible.
See how it
Within
works.
that parental set, we have another daughter group that we're going to be moving into in the middle part of this image. We'll use vertebrates for this one because we have a spinal column. And for the last nested set, we are mammals because we have body-wide hair follicles and mammary glands specifically, along with several other traits. If you go down any of those other paths, you end up describing something else. Even AIG has to admit the existence of clades, and to their credit,
didn't
have
know
tried
about
to make their own
baraminology.
planograms in a
I
study
almost
called
forgot about that.
baraminology, with the root of each clade being a single created kind, which is unrelated to anything else. The problem is that every time they try to show this or that is unrelated, we can show that they actually are.
So I decided to look into this myself. I went to Answers in Genesis and read what they had to say about clades. Here's an
Oh, he
excerpt
went
from
to
the article I
AIG.
read. The link to this article will be in the description. As a
That's
result,
the
modern
problem.
classification is now changing into a largely dependent technique known as cladistics. Because
Okay,
of a
pause this.
pervasive
We
evolutionary
can
mindset,
skip
a new
this
dogma
part.
has emerged.
We can skip this.
Because, basically what he's saying is that AIG disagrees with cladistics and taxonomy because of baraminology, but the problem is they can only walk that back so far before they realize that they have to connect these two clades that they thought were separate. That's the whole point. That's the whole idea. And that's what I presented to him in my response to this. If he cannot present two created kinds that are unrelated in any way to each other, then he fails.
Yep.
Evolution wins.
It's
If he can't do that,
he can't,
then he
and
fucking
won't,
loses.
But he's going to try. I
If
know
he
he's gonna
tries,
try.
if he tries to do that, I will walk that goalpost back as far as he wants to take it, and I guarantee we will end up at the 3 root clades of everything that exists on this fucking planet.
Oh no, because I already predict what he's going to do. A virus and a human.
Even if he does that, it doesn't matter. We can trace that. Viruses, we don't consider viruses to be alive because they don't maintain homeostasis.
Yep.
Like normal cells do, like cells that we attribute to being alive. And evolution is such an ingrained necessity of life that it is actually one of the qualifications to be considered alive.
Yep.
If you don't evolve, if anything does not evolve, it is not considered alive.
Yeah.
That is how far this goes. That is how deep this goes. If an organism does not evolve to naturally selective pressures, it is not considered alive. That is how deep this goes.
He is a moron.
You cannot escape evolutionary biology, period. If you consider something alive, congratulations. It fucking evolves.
He's a moron. He is
Keep
utterly
going.
a moron. Okay, we're hitting play. I've skipped over his whole AIG article thing because fuck it, that doesn't matter.
It's irrelevant. Baraminology is a bullshit.
Yep.
Is a bullshit study that doesn't meet any criteria of science at all. It doesn't have any predictive power. It's fucking useless.
Yep. So we've skipped over that, and we're gonna hit play.
This, which is accurate. See, the definitions you list don't define what species are, as in Homo sapiens.
Oh yeah, I skipped over
But
his
it's
argument
how
on
we
what a
identify
species is, because he
species.
got into
This is
all
a
the
key
different
distinction.
definitions.
What you have listed are
Yeah,
how we
he
identify
went through those
divisions.
definitions.
Take, for example, the first
And
one
he
that
failed.
you list,
He failed.
typological or morphological species. This one is where the layman can recognize the same taxa like Canis lupus familiaris, the domestic dog, or Felis sylvestris, the house cat. This is where we get that whole dogs produce dogs thing that creationists inevitably throw out in discussion. It's a very broad method of classification dating back to Linnaeus, but defining species goes a bit deeper than that.
Alright, you are correct on this one. However, the main point I was trying to say is still accurate. There are still 7 distinct definitions for a species. I will be reading an excerpt from this article about the species problem. Link will be in the description. The species problem is not unique to virology. Since 150 years ago, after the publication of Darwin's On the Origin of Species, biologists still did not agree about what constitutes a microbial, plant, or animal species. Although the term species is used as the lowest category in all hierarchical biological classifications, what a species actually is, namely its ontology, remains an unresolved issue in the philosophy of biology. Marr declared, "There is probably no other concept in biology that has remained as consistently controversial as the species concept," and in 1997, during an international conference of species, no less than 22 different species concepts were discussed. In this excerpt, it talks about 22 different species concepts, but they don't explain what they are, so I'm just going to stick with 7. The reason there's so many different definitions is because it's difficult for scientists to define what a species even is. A kind is very easy to define. If 2 creatures can breed, they are definitely the same kind, and if they share a common lineage that can be actually proven, then they are also the same.
Hold on. By that, I gotta pause.
Okay, here's the thing. Here's the major disconnect. When I made my response to this video, I should have been a little bit more detailed, but yes, there is a specific definition for species as it applies to animals. Plants and fungi, due to their reproductive processes,
yes, have different definitions.
they're harder to define in that context because they can cross-pollinate or whatever. But as it pertains to animals,
Yep.
things with a digestive tract that must ingest and digest other organisms to survive, there's a very specific definition for animals, which we are.
But
Sticking to that context, that's where I wound up staying, sticking within the context of species as it pertains to animals. If you want to get into plant species and fungal species, yes, there's going to be a different definition because they reproduce differently than we do.
Yep.
That's the only division. That is literally the only division at all.
His claim right here where, kind's really easy to define. If 2 things can breed, they're the same kind. So dolphins and porpoises are the same because they can breed occasionally successfully, producing a mule offspring. It's completely sterile and it doesn't breed. So is that mule offspring of a porpoise and a dolphin not a kind? How about horses and donkeys? They make literal mules. Is that not a kind since mules are sterile and can't breed? What about
God damn it! Now I have a.
What about ligers?
Those sterile hybrids are something that he completely ignores. That's the problem. If he were to use the term species honestly, and as we use it in biology, then he would have a very big problem.
Oh yeah. Okay, we're gonna hit play again.
But it is true that 2 animals may not be able to breed and can still be the same kind, but for the most part...
Wait, what?
No, if they cannot breed, then they are not the same kind by the biblical definition, because everything is supposed to bring forth after its kind.
But
if it can't bring forth, it's not the same fucking kind. So that objection is fucking irrelevant.
Did he literally just say that 2 animals that can't breed might be the same kind?
Yes, he did. He's using the same fucking description of kind that Ken Ham does, where Ken Ham is willing to walk that back. Well, they may not be what science considers the same species, but they're the same family, or they're the same genus, or they're the same class or order. He walks it back arbitrarily. That's incredibly dishonest, and that's the issue that I had in the response to this.
Yeah.
If you can walk kind back all the way to fucking kingdom, then we have a fucking problem, because it's not an accurate description of what's going on.
Yeah, it's completely useless as a descriptor. It's like saying green is yellow because there's yellow there. No.
Yeah. Pretty much, and that's the main issue that we have. If he can get past this whole kind thing, I mean, like, and I know that Aaron is a whole shitload of fucking demonology for fucking creationists, but he's right. If you can walk kind back that far, kinds become clades. So he has taken the definition from species, which he used in the original video, and he's walked it back to clades, which has a completely different definition, and is something that I can still fucking show. He hasn't won here. He's just tried to walk the goalpost back, and I still win because I can show where it actually works.
Oh, sweet Jesus.
Kinds within kinds is like clades within clades. It's a set of fucking Russian Matryoshka dolls, just like Aaron described. That's the way it actually works.
Yep.
I mean, it's really a no-brainer. Any objection to this is just you're just fucking trying to hide yourself from fucking knowledge.
I'm hitting play.
A kind is very easy to understand. Let me give you an example to bring this point home. A horse, a donkey, and a zebra can all breed with each other, but from the evolutionist point of view, they are still not the same species. Why?
For example,
Yeah, they're not because they don't produce
identified
fertile
trait
offspring.
showing man was not related to apes.
Oh, thank God,
and
it's me
demanding
again.
The scientific community of the States
Something
show
we
him
can just
what.
sit and
I can
watch.
present to you some of the differences
Go
between
away.
humans and apes. Apes have lower intelligence than humans. They are covered in hair. They have tails.
Hold on,
They're
keep
much more
going.
physically stronger than us.
Intelligence
They don't
is
use language or
relative.
currency,
Apes don't
and they
have
can eat raw
tails.
meat. Those are just a few off the top of my
We
head.
can eat raw
What
meat.
followed
No,
is a
just keep
perfect
it- okay,
example of
pause.
science being a
I'm personally
self-correct
covered in
process.
hair, by the way. So
Okay. What he just did was he tried to divide humans from apes. The problem is every single thing, and I've covered this in the comments on this video, in my own comment section, that every single thing he tried to produce as a differentiating trait for apes from humans is literally meaningless. We're not looking for every little difference. We're looking for common traits, core commonality shared between all members of that group. So every little difference is fucking worthless, and it's not going to get us anywhere, because if you look for every fucking difference, we will divide literally every person from every person standing next to them. And if we go that route, then it's not going to get us anywhere. So we look for core common traits, and that's something that him and a couple of other people that have popped up in my fucking comment section failed to fucking understand. If you look at all the diagnostic traits that are held in common morphologically and genetically with humans and apes, we're apes. If you look at every single one of those traits that divide us from great apes, we're still great apes. If you divide that even further to what's held with Catarrhini, the Catarrhines,
Yep.
we're Catarrhines. We are old world monkeys, not new world.
Yep.
If you keep going further and further and further and further back down the fucking cladogram, as I had to do in part 2, you can't escape the fact that we are related to every single fucking one of those things. And you cannot use a common designer as an argument, because in order to do that, you have to show that that designer fucking exists.
Except, that
If you don't show that if you don't show a common designer exists, and skip on to say, well, this can be a common designer, you're skipping a critical step. Because if you can't show a common designer, then we have nothing to consider.
Ooh.
Moving on.
Moving on. Hitting play.
Correcting process. See, what happened was that being unable to face the fact that humans are apes, a point that I will cover in more detail in point 6 next time, the scientific community created a separate class called Pongo, where they shoved all apes except humans. Obviously, this did not stand up and was eventually fixed much later.
In my mind, that was a perfect example of how if you keep repeating a lie, eventually people will begin to believe it's true. I think they had it correct the first time. Human beings are not
See,
idiots. If what you're
religion-
saying about science is true,
we're
that
not
it
gonna
is a
pause.
self-correcting system, hopefully they realize their
Keep
mistake
going.
and accept the truth once again.
Yeah,
I realize
we're
that this
just gonna let
particular
this
point
go.
may be, well, difficult, but the word species does have a clear meaning, and the methods used in identifying species are what are being defined here.
Okay, so do me a favor. Define for me what a species is. Are donkeys and horses the same species?
No.
What about lions and tigers?
No.
If you can't even identify a
No.
species, how can you possibly define it?
At the risk of sounding condescending, though, sources like this are an okay place to start research. Peer review articles and studies are obviously preferred.
I'll be making a video about my thoughts on peer-reviewed articles in the near future, so subscribe if you
I'm
want to
gonna
be notified
kneecap
right when
that.
that comes out.
I have made
Oh,
my
yeah,
point here,
we're
but if you
kneecapping
want,
that
let me
one.
know, and I will cover each of these definitions and what they mean in greater detail in a follow-up. But we need to continue.
It's okay. I understand the point you're trying to make, but I still stand by the fact
No,
that
you
defining
don't.
species
No,
isn't so
you
easy.
fucking
That is why I
don't.
trust the Word of God. The Bible lays out a clear definition for a
No, it
kind,
doesn't.
and it is much more of a consistent definition than science provides. It is likely even if science comes to a consensus on what a species is, it would only be a matter of time before they change the definition again. But to answer your question, I understand that you have a huge
Pause this real
backlog, and I
quick.
think I got the point you were trying to make.
Yeah.
Yes, science does change, but
It's
that
a
happens as
self-correcting
new
mechanism.
information. That happens as new information comes in. For instance, when we're looking at stellar formation or planetary formation, our ideas change as new information comes in because that new information updates what we have. Say, we have this one satellite in orbit that's only sensitive to a certain degree. We can only detect certain exoplanets, kind of
Yep.
thing. But if we put more sensitive instrumentation in place, then we can detect more of these exoplanets. It's the same fucking thing.
I love how
It's
how he
not
seems to
science.
think- I love how he
Yeah,
seems
it's
to
not
think
science arbitrarily
changing.
walking that back.
Yeah.
Like Hovind says, the universe was 20 billion years old. Now it's 15 billion years old. Now it's 13 billion years old. No, we're not arbitrarily walking that number back. It's because the instrumentation that we are using is more sensitive. It's taking more precise measurements, and we are updating accordingly. That's all it is.
I personally love how people like Erasmus seem to think the fact that science changes is a gotcha. It's like, haha, you changed your mind on something when you learned something new.
That's because the information and the evidence provided by the new instrumentation, the more sensitive instrumentation, compelled us to do so. We don't hold a fucking point because we want to hold it. We change as the information updates. If more sensitive instrumentation or new evidence points out something might be an error, like, hey, it's not this anymore, it's this, then we change accordingly. That's all it is.
Except they want to use it as a fucking gotcha. Oh, well.
And it's never a fucking gotcha.
We only have 10
Keep
minutes
going.
of this video left. How long will it take? Let's hit play.
It depends on how much I'm
Evolution
talking.
is not science thing. But to be blunt, and at the risk of...
I was going to say half a jar of moonshine.
Fierstein is
I'm
not an
amazed I haven't started
authoritative source
screaming
on
yet.
what science is, let alone what evolution is or how it works. You seem to have allowed yourself to become encased in an echo chamber, which is part of what I am here to deal with.
I take your point about Josh Fierstein
Okay,
not being
pause.
an authority on science. That is fair. But as for being an
Okay,
He's
at
about-
this point, he admits that Fierstein is not
Yep.
a authority on science, which is good.
He admitted that, but he's
But
about
at
to
the same
argue
time-
that he's not in an echo chamber, isn't he?
He's about to argue that he's not in an echo chamber. An echo chamber isn't just what circles of people you interact with. It's also the information it's also the sources that you draw your information from. If you draw your information only from creationist sources, then you are in an echo chamber. And I address this in both versions of the video responding to this.
Mm-hmm.
If you are drawing from creationist sources and creationist sources alone, you're in an echo chamber. I, on the other hand, draw from scholarly sources, and I look at the sources provided to me from creationists on the offhand chance that they might have something worth considering,
Yep.
which is becoming a far less likely possibility.
Oh yeah, it's almost
I
zero.
will consider all information from all sources. However, if you employ logically fallacious thinking, if you employ logic, yeah. Hell, I've been drinking. Fuck you.
All of us have. And you're
Oh,
doing
I
for
need
it.
more scotch.
If you employ logically fallacious thinking in your reasoning, if you employ reasoning that is flawed, then I'm going to point that out. And if you can't address that to my satisfaction, then we really don't have anything to talk about.
Yep. So let's hear him argue against an echo
If you can't
chamber.
address the errors in that reasoning, then it falls apart. As far as I'm concerned, it's worthless. I will consider every single creationist source, as painful as that will be,
Oh, that'll hurt.
and I will show at every point where they are wrong. My purpose, my goal with my channel is to impart knowledge, because I believe that knowledge is power. The more you know that is factually accurate and has practical application, the less you have to carry, both
Yep.
figuratively and literally.
Yep.
If you're the guy that's walking around and knows how engineering shit works, you don't have to carry anything. You got a guy working for you that does that.
Yep. Okay.
If you know how to do shit, you don't have to carry a fucking thing. You hire a guy to carry the shit for you. That's how that works. The more you know, the less you need.
Mm-hmm.
That's the whole point. I'm trying to impart an understanding of a subject that should be very easily understood,
He's not
and
gonna
something
get it.
that I have, quite frankly, understood since I was fucking 8 years old.
He's not gonna get it. He really isn't, and it's gonna be funny watching him try to argue against it. But let's see what he has to say about echo chambers. I'm almost interested.
The problem, real quick before you press play, I'm willing to give him the time of day because, as far as I'm concerned, he is, for lack of a better term, a child.
Yep.
He does not know any better. He has been fed this ignorance his entire life, and I'm trying to correct that. I have no other agenda. I'm not trying to make him not believe in a God despite what he may think. But you don't get to lie about demonstrable fucking facts to support your religious convictions. That's where I'm going to have an issue. If you have to misrepresent and lie about everything that is put to you, then there's a problem. My purpose is to provide an education, and, you know, I'm trying to impart knowledge.
Yep.
Not trying to destroy religious beliefs. Unfortunately, that's a side effect. But as it pertains to evolution, if you want to prop a god up behind that, fucking go for it. I don't care. As long as you acknowledge the fact that all this evidence exists and everything is consistent with this theory, I don't care if you believe in a god or not. I really don't. That is secondary. My problem is misrepresenting science for religious purposes.
Yep.
And if you have to misrepresent everything to support your religious convictions, then you're a fucking liar. And I'll call you out on it.
Yep.
That's my entire spiel. You can press play now.
Oh, let's see what he has to say about echo chambers.
I've had a social media presence for about 2 or 3 weeks. I've only met one person who agrees with me on some of this stuff. He's a very nice guy, but the only thing we agree on is the earth is flat. He's an atheist. I've not met a single Christian, at least in terms of talking about Christianity on the internet. Now, part of that's my fault. I have not done a very good job of promoting my channel to other Christians, but the point I'm making is that I'm not in an echo chamber. I wish I was in an echo chamber. A majority of the people who subscribe to me disagree with me on almost everything, so I disagree with that characterization.
Your layout of the scientific method is
Press pause real quick, would you?
But I need
Just for 2 seconds.
He wishes he was in an echo chamber?
Just for 2 seconds. He said that an atheist agrees with him on flat Earth. That's fine. Atheists, the only thing that atheists agree on is that the existence of a God is highly unlikely, to the point that it is negligible and virtually non-existent. Outside of that, there are atheists that believe some, to be perfectly blunt, stupid shit.
Yes, there are.
But that is not reflective of the whole. Just like the KKK is not reflective of all of Christianity. Okay?
Yep.
There are people in both groups that believe some really stupid shit.
Yep, being atheist
but that
doesn't
is
mean
not
you're smart.
Yes. Being an atheist, like you said, doesn't mean that you're a learned intellectual. It doesn't mean that you're a scholar. It means that you don't believe that a God exists. Keyword being believe. Outside of that, the term has no use whatsoever. If you're talking about something other than the existence of a God, then you've left the realm of atheism entirely.
Well, let's see what I'm looking at this wonderful little graphic you have up. So I know you're about to give a good little explanation. Let's listen to your explanation.
Yes, this is what you were talking about. This is what you were talking about yesterday with the with that one thing you were the gene in humans.
In humans and apes. Yeah. Yeah, let's listen to your lovely explanation and listen to his entire attempt to weasel out of it.
To be clear, before we go further, just real quick, this information has not only been corroborated by me doing my own research into this, but the idea that set me on this path was put to me by watching another series of videos, specifically Arn's videos on the systematic classification of life.
Yeah,
I took that and did not, I want to stress this, I did not follow that blindly.
Yep.
I looked into it myself.
Yep.
This is something that I have confirmed and not something I'm just taking on someone else's word. Just to be clear.
Yep. And Oren put out, if you people haven't seen them, Oren Ra's put out some wonderful videos on the systematic classification of life that you can go
I'll
watch.
be perfectly blunt.
And
I've learned more about evolutionary biology from Arn Ra and corroborating what he has said than I learned in my entire public school education system. And it's from really, middle school, all that stuff. I've learned more about evolutionary biology from his channel than I ever got in the public education system.
And it's
continue.
Really easy to corroborate the information in his videos because he gives you everything you need to go corroborate.
Exactly.
So, that said, let's listen to this lovely explanation and how Erasmus tries to weasel out of it.
Here, and we will use your example to do that. Setting aside that the question, am I a monkey, is indeed a valid, if broad question, we need to come at this more incrementally and start with something like, are humans apes? Since apes are, at the very least, morphologically similar to us and us to them, this covers doing background research as well, which also looks at the possibility and probability of a given question. Based on morphological similarities, it is possible and probable that we are apes, since there is no significant difference in characters traits aside from proportions. We have the same bones, the same basic structure, the same dentition, and the same social abilities like recognizing our place in a hierarchy just as they do. This isn't just science says yes, since all of these things are objectively verifiable.
I would agree with you on some of those things. I do, however, believe that there are a lot of differences between humans and apes, as I laid out earlier. I will admit I did a basic interpretation of what it meant by due research. I was unaware that it was not referring to the scientific orthodoxy. I do appreciate the clarification.
Real quick, just real quick. Everything that he put forward, as in we use currency or they have more muscle than we do, is absolutely useless taxonomically. It means
I don't even
literally
understand why
nothing.
he mentioned fucking money.
Because he doesn't know how taxonomy works. That's one of the things that I need to get through to him. He doesn't understand that we don't give a fuck about whether or not subsequent whatever clades use currency. That's not a defining characteristic.
Yeah.
We're looking at morphological traits. That is all. We're not looking at, we use more currency. And even if we have half the musculature of apes, that doesn't change the fact that we are apes. We're just a subset of great apes. So his objection isn't valid unless he can provide something to reasonably consider, which he doesn't and can't. But continue.
A grade school explanation that just proves the muscle mass point to be completely wrong is that I have more muscle mass than my 6-year-old niece, and yet we are the same species.
Yep.
Not even that. You're what? Pushing 6 feet?
I am 6'1", 6'2".
Yeah, you're substantially taller than I am, which means you have more muscle mass than I do. Does that mean that we're different species?
According to
I'm
Erasmus,
significantly taller than my father as well.
Well, according
Exactly.
to Erasmus,
is...
this makes us all different species.
Yeah, my father's 5'8".
He's looking for, and that's the point. He's looking for every little difference, which isn't what we look for in taxonomy. We look for core common traits.
Yep.
Which I cover again in more detail in part 2 of this, which he evidently has not seen at this point.
Okay, so we're going to hit play again, and we're going to let this go till 20. We're going to suffer through this for 3 minutes.
I
On what it meant by due research. So thank you for bringing that to my attention.
We can't use your I am a monkey hypothesis because it is much too broad. We do have something we can test for, and does meet the criteria to be falsified. If, as you likely maintain, we share no relationship with apes, then we should be able to look for something in their DNA and in our own, and not find it in ours. So we can say that as a hypothesis, if humans and apes are unrelated, we should find no similar strains of DNA between humans and apes. But we can refine this further to look for specific genes that are responsible for things that we do not exhibit and would have no reason to have.
I want to say something about DNA while you're on the subject. Now, we both know that all DNA contains adenine, thymine, guanine, cytosine. So straight off the bat, all DNA is already similar. But then you talk about if we find strands of genes that are not exhibited in humans but are still found in their DNA. So basically, the pseudo structures on a molecular scale. Strands of DNA that you claim used to serve a purpose but no longer do. Evolutionists love to bring up that whales have hip bones and humans have an appendix. My response is the presence of these things does not prove that they served a purpose. It's possible that whales' hip bones actually do serve some purpose, and we just don't understand it yet. And in terms of the human appendix, it's been theorized that it may aid in digestion of raw meat and be linked to our immune.
We understand what the whale's hip bones are for right now. They're weight bearing.
Right. Yeah, alright. This is one thing that I had to cover in vicious detail in the original and slightly subdued detail in the actual released version. Yes, whales do have pelvises, but I do love the fact that he completely worked and he just avoided the fact that we have common ape genes with other apes.
Yep, he's completely
avoided
disregard it with red herrings.
He completely disregarded it, and I am so tempted to release the original unfiltered version, but I'm really honestly trying to reach this kid.
Oh,
and I'm keeping it there for posterity.
I need another link to the unfiltered.
It should be pretty close in my... do do you have access to my Patreon
No,
Discord portion?
I'm a poor bastard.
Oh, Ziggy, can you send that to him?
I should be able to.
Just DM it to me.
The
Uh,
unfiltered version of this particular spiel is, to be completely honest,
Very good.
absolutely blunt, and I straight don't care about his feelings. He completely avoided the issue altogether. Why in the hell would we share common genes, not just common genes, but common traits, like what I'm about to address with MYH16? Why would we have that? Why in the ever-loving fuck would we have that? Seriously.
Okay, so we just watched him red
Yeah.
herring it. Let's see if he actually has a legitimate kind of response. We're gonna hit play.
I can tell you he doesn't.
Probably not, but we're gonna see.
System. But as for your main point about vestigial structures in our DNA, this does not mean that we are related to them. But I'm going to go ahead and let you present your evidence. Let's take a look.
Okay, hold on. I have to pause real quick. And now he's going on vestigial structures in DNA doesn't mean we're related, so he's now assuming that both independently Homo sapiens and other great apes, all independently of each other, evolved the exact same protein mechanism.
And don't forget that he also included whale pelvises in this.
Oh, Jesus. I mean, we have examples of divergent species evolving to do the same thing, but we find that those evolutions they achieve the same goals through different mechanisms. We have never found two unrelated species that have evolved a similar trait that exhibit the trait in the exact same genetic way. They do it differently.
Exactly. If unless I'm mistaken, there's some trait that we exhibit that others exhibit in a different way. But I'm running from memory, so I'm just gonna let that sit there.
We're gonna hit play, and we're gonna listen to the evidence he is now so graciously letting you apply. What, Ziggy?
Was it the video that you posted on May 8th?
Yeah, the one, it was, fuck, what was I wearing? White shirt, the one with the white shirt.
I am not seeing. I'm not seeing a white shirt.
I'm gonna hit play.
For MYH16, which codes for the protein known as myosin heavy chain 16. This protein is key in forming those large masticatory muscles in apes, and since we don't have them, we can now construct a very specific hypothesis, which will be this. If humans and apes are unrelated, we should not be able to find the MYH16 gene in human DNA.
Yep.
Very specific, testable, and falsifiable. So how do we test it? Easy. We run a sequence of the specific section that has that gene and see if it pops up, which we've already done, and it does pop up in our DNA. In humans, there is a mutation in that gene that affects the way it forms myosin heavy chain 16 proteins. The gene is there, it makes a protein, but that protein doesn't work in us, and is one of the things that allowed us to develop our greatest asset, our brains.
So I've already laid out my problem with this evidence, but I'll go into more detail. I don't disagree with the result of the experiment. If you're saying that the gene mentioned is in us and apes, I will take your word for it. I do disagree that because that gene is found in both humans and apes, that somehow means that we are related. I want to read an...
Hold on. I have to pause because obviously he's already...
that gene is in us...
No, it's not even that. It's right before that. It's where he's like, I'll just take your word for it. So he doesn't do any research.
Exactly.
He doesn't do any research. He just accepts everything at face fucking value.
The larger point here that he needs to address in his response to this video, and in his response to, frankly, my response to his video, if MYH16 is not an indication of relatedness, then what in the ever-loving fuck is it?
Yeah. So, let's hit
why in the hell would we have MYH16 in our genome. Why would we have the ability to make that protein
Oh, well,
if it
because
served no
obviously,
goddamn purpose at all?
well, because obviously, when God was making everything, He had a bunch of leftovers. So He just
And he
slapped some of
blinked.
that in us. So He didn't have
I mean,
anything
it was,
left
seriously,
over.
seriously, did he forget to pull it out of our DNA? I mean, what the
Jesus
fuck?
Christ.
I mean, it's there.
Oh,
Why in the fuck is it there? It serves no fucking purpose in human. Why in the ever-loving fuck is it there? Did he fucking forget to pull it out? What the hell's going on?
let's hit play and see what else he says.
I want to read an
Alright.
excerpt from this article about how human and chimp DNA is not 99% similar. I feel it is relevant to this discussion about the similarities in our genome. In 2007, Science published an article on the similarity of human and chimp DNA titled Relative Differences, The Myth of 1%. Author John Cohen queried the continued use of the 1% figure, citing comparisons following the publication of the draft chimp DNA sequence of around 5%. And yet the 1% myth is perpetuated. In 2012, in the same journal. In 2012, Dr. Jeffrey Tompkins and Jerry Bergman reviewed the published studies comparing human to chimp DNA. When all the DNA is taken into account, and not just the pre-selected parts, they found it is safe to conclude the human-chimp genome similarity is not more than about 87% identical, and possibly not higher than 81%. In other words, the differences are huge, possibly greater than 19%. Indeed, Dr. Tompkins made his own thorough comparison and found that differences to be about 30%. Also, the Y chromosomes found only in males are radically different, contrary to evolutionist expectations. And I can probably
fuck's sake,
already
just
guess
pause
that you
this
don't like this
fucking thing.
excerpt because it comes from a creationist.
Yeah, that's a pause.
I don't like it because it comes from a creationist source. For one, if it comes from a creationist source,
It's already biased
that
because
person-
they have a declaration of faith in which
yes, if they have in any way signed or even touched the statement of faith, which they have to work for these organizations, I don't give a flying fuck what they say.
Yep, it's gone.
Further, let's take this a step. Let's take this a step further. He's focusing on percentages here.
Yep.
Okay. Percentages. We have 99 to 95% similarity to apes, to other apes.
Mm-hmm.
Now, it depends on whether or not you're looking at the whole genome or whether or not you're looking at the coding and regulatory sections of that
Yep.
same genome. There's a difference there. To put this into perspective, and I got this from Christopher Titus because it is applicable. If I'm 98% inside your girlfriend, is that cheating or is it inconclusive?
I don't know. There's still that 2%.
If she's sitting on top of me, putting 98% of my dick inside of her, is that cheating or is that inconclusive when you walk in?
I don't know, bro. There's still
If
that
your
2%.
girlfriend-
Yep.
If your girlfriend is riding Jody in a reverse cowgirl and he's only 98% inside of her, is that inconclusive or is that cheating?
Well, obviously, according to Erasmus, that's inconclusive. I'm going to call that
Obviously.
cheating.
Exactly. That's the to put that into perspective. What creationists generally deem as imprecise language, the language that I just used for that scenario is the same language that science uses. So if it's 98%, that's a fucking relationship.
Yep.
That 2% is fucking irrelevant.
Yep.
It's like you walking in on your girlfriend in a reverse cowgirl with Jody.
At
And
98%
she says, I'm not cheating.
It's only 98%.
Are you gonna take her word for it? If your dick is 98, if someone else's dick is 98% inside of her, are you gonna take her word for it that
No,
that's
I'm
not cheating?
I'm gonna
No,
look
of
at
course
the
you're not gonna fucking take her
98%.
word for it.
I'm looking at that 98%. I'm like,
Exactly. Of course you're not going to look at the 2% that's not quite in there yet. You're going to be looking at the 98% that is splitting her in half. That's the same fucking scenario we're working with scientific language.
Oh, Oh shit, we need to do this more
98%
often.
is a pretty damn good fucking indication of what the fuck is going on.
Yep.
So you can say she's cheating on me, or you can deny reality and just walk the fuck away
I mean,
and just deal with the kid that she gives birth to that is not the same fucking color as you are.
I would say in 98% of the cases, 98% is an indication of 100%. It might as well be.
Exactly.
So,
It's just 2%, so it's inconclusive. No,
No,
it
it's
fucking
not.
isn't.
no, it's not. All right, do you think we can make it through the last 5 minutes?
Let's find out.
Oh,
Definitely not sober.
Hold on. I'm pouring a little more scotch. Oh,
And
Let's
I'm
play
just
real
gonna.
quick before my screen goes dead.
And while you are pouring your scotch, Erasmus, if you ever, as someone who genuinely likes to learn other people's points of views, regardless of agreement or disagreement, if you ever want to run an idea by me, whether it's for writing or just wanting to learn an opinion or share opinions, whatever, talk to me.
Are you
Ziggy,
scared?
One
Jeff
thing
thought
I've
he was in the
learned-
chat.
No,
One thing
no.
I've learned with Erasmus is that it's very difficult to talk to him without it coming off as a personal attack, because as soon as you start questioning everything he believes, it's equated to a personal attack, and that's not the case. We're questioning the idea, not
Yep.
you.
Yeah, I could
That's the
give a fuck
difference.
about the person. It's the idea I have a problem with. I don't care about the
Mm-hmm.
person. Doesn't matter. But
No, man. I'll probably pour you a drink and just sit down and talk with you the entire time. I love sharing ideas. It's how we progress as a society.
you know, I'm not saying I wouldn't sit down and have a scotch with the guy, but I would mock him. All right.
That's why the scotch helps.
If I got a decent amount of whiskey in him, if I got a decent amount of whiskey in me in general, I would mock the ever loving fuck out of him.
Okay, so what I'm hearing is we need to get together and share a bottle of whiskey. I'm going to hit play and we're going to try to make it 5 minutes, kids. Let's see what happens.
Oh, please.
Meaning that it is automatically uncredible. So I found this video by a fake science YouTube channel that you would probably love, called Minute Physics. In this video, they
Yeah,
admit that
Minute
they
Physics
ignore
is
about
good.
40% of our genomes that are different, and compare
I
the other
kinda like
60%
some
that are
Minute Physics
similar to
videos.
arrive at near 99%.
So,
Keep going, he
yes,
quote mines
we
on
share
my-
99% of our
Yeah.
DNA with chimps.
Yeah.
If
I
we
can
ignore
already tell he's
18%
going
of
for
their
a
genome
quote
and
mine.
25% of ours.
The link to that video and the article will be in the description.
Combined with the molecular clock, we can trace back the time frame for this mutation,
thank God,
which
we're back to
matches
you.
with other independent
It's same
dating methods like
content.
radiometric dating of fossils showing this
I never
divergence.
thought
Look
I'd
at
do
Don't
that
even get me
desert
started on
background.
radiometric dating. But regarding what you describe as the molecular clock, I believe that is nonsense. You can measure the rate at which mutations happen now, but you can't be sure that
saving
at
the
some time
molecular
mutations
clock
were
for
happening
later.
at a faster or slower rate. Things you observe
Hold on.
today are indicative of what is
Hold on.
happening today.
Hold on.
They cannot tell you exactly
on.
how things happened in the
Hold
past.
on. I have to pause this. This is my spiel now because he's trying to go, okay, because you observed this now and over 20 years we've seen that this is happening at this rate. We can't
To be clear,
Oh,
to
God
be
damn it.
perfectly clear, just real quick, radiometric dating is something I'm going to be covering in your next period of instruction.
Oh, yes,
Your
that's
next
gonna be
period of
fun.
instruction series that I'm doing.
Oh,
that's
that's
actually
gonna
the
be
next
fun.
thing that's coming up.
That's got to be fun.
And I know I'm gonna have, I know I'm gonna have to divide that up because we have carbon dating, we have uranium dating, we have a whole
we've
bunch
got
of
like
shit
17
covered.
different versions of radiometric dating, all to
Yeah.
test different time frames. But
Yeah,
But-
that's going to be something I'm going to be trying to cover in detail. Then
But
I'm
in-
not
in-
too horribly concerned about it here.
yeah, in the context of this, radiometric dating is absolutely pointless and useless because it has nothing to do with this. His argument on the molecular clock, which we've used to track mutation, because he's trying
And
to
to
say
be clear,
things could
we
get-
know that is. To be clear, we know that it is done by average mutation rates,
Yep.
and I cover this in the response to
Okay.
This-
It's covered.
in both points.
Okay, good. It's covered.
We know that it is not useless as a measuring tool because we're not trying to narrow this down to a specific fucking Tuesday.
Yep. We don't need which Tuesday in June it was.
Exactly.
Jesus.
We can still work with it as a measuring stick, but we understand that there are limitations, and we are aware of those limitations.
But when
We're
we're
not trying to
talking
pin
about
this
something
down.
that's happened 100,000 years ago, we're good with plus or minus 3,000 years.
Exactly.
An
That's
error rate
just a
of
drop in the
3,000
bucket compared
years?
to the whole fucking thing.
That's a 0.3% error rate. So
Yes,
it happened
exactly.
this long ago within 0.3%.
Oh, check Ziggy, check early access. I think Snail hooked you up.
Yeah, I already sent it to Alucard.
I'm
Oh,
hitting play
yes.
again. I'm hitting play again. We've only got 4 minutes.
Uh-huh.
We've got 4 minutes,
I
kids. We
look
can
so-
do it.
I hope that's fireworks and not gunshots out my window.
I
The great
look
American
so
game.
angry.
Fireworks or gunshots.
God, I look so angry.
I'm hitting play. Go.
And in the past.
Bear in mind that DNA evidence alone is enough to get a conviction in a court of law.
Yes,
it
it
carries
is.
enough weight to get a death sentence on its own without anything else.
Yes, it is.
This is the same accuracy as a paternity test.
Yes.
And obviously, I would agree with that. DNA is almost as unique as a fingerprint. This is not what is being discussed. You are not talking about using DNA to make exact matches. You are talking about using DNA to look at similarities and determine a relationship. A paternity test is not the same thing as what you have described.
Yes,
if
it
you
is.
use the same standards we use to determine someone
It
is a father
literally
as you
is.
did to determine if
That's
monkeys were
exactly
our
what
cousins,
it is.
you would find the answer is definitively no. Monkeys have giant sections in their DNA that are totally different from ours. But of
Hey,
course, if you
where
ignore
did
these
you drop the
gigantic
link for
sections,
this
you will come to
thing?
the conclusion that we are 98.7%
Collaboration,
similar.
that's right.
What a joke.
Never mind,
So
I got
yes,
it.
we can construct valid hypotheses.
I
and
dropped out.
Oh, you dropped
For a
out.
second.
Hold on. We're waiting for Adam to come back.
No
Oh,
worries.
there you are.
But
Oh, now I
he's
know how
literally
this thing
saying
works.
a maternity test is testing the relation between the child and the mother.
Yeah.
You're saying that we're not testing the relationship between two species of animals.
Well, that's the thing.
It's literally testing
pushed this
relations
out.
between two things. That's it.
Yeah.
That's all it is.
We're not looking for, this guy's DNA is on the knife. We're looking for, who's the guy that's related to this guy that has the blood on the knife kind of thing. We're looking at relatedness. We're not looking at an exact match.
Yep.
We're looking to see where that is. Press play real quick to see if I'm on the same page.
experiments to prove
2212.
Keep going.
descent and that evolution is
All
not
right,
only
I'm on track.
science,
All
but
right.
an indisputable fact of biology with more evidence supporting it than any other
3 minutes,
scientific
kids.
theory.
We can make it.
As I've already laid out, I disagree that it proves common descent. I will concede that the
Doesn't matter.
mechanism to an extent
stupid.
appears to be valid, but I would disagree on the historical aspect that evolution describes.
Even if it were
Evolution,
proven wrong
not
tomorrow,
evolution.
another theory would have
evolution
to be put
isn't
up
the
in
word.
its place.
It's evolution.
That explains everything it did not account for and all the data that it did already account for, while being testable and falsifiable itself.
That theory will be creationism. I hope that this
No.
happens in my lifetime.
What?
Oh,
Creation
please.
explains everything so much better
No,
than
no,
evolution
we're-
ever
we're-
will.
we're-
And
we're
I know
not-
that eventually the
not-
world
Keep
will know
going,
the
keep
truth
going.
about
Hold
the
on,
origin
hold
of
on,
life on
hold on.
Earth.
He doesn't deserve a pause.
The
Pause.
watchmaker argument.
Oh,
I am
God.
sure
He literally
I-
went watchmaker.
Okay, so he is apparently going to make a video concerning how creationism is true and how evolution is wrong. You both have seen the original footage.
Mm-hmm.
I look forward to that.
Yeah, that's going to be a fun live
And I'm
stream,
gonna
live response.
I am going to enjoy kicking that in the face with the steel-toed boot of factually accurate information.
Oh, yeah.
And his video on peer review
I'm
is
coming
going
at
to
that.
suffer the same.
I'm coming at that video that he's going to put out trying to fucking diss peer review. I'm going to come at that with a goddamn club and take its kneecaps out.
Kneecaps that video.
It's going to be so goddamn easy. Okay.
Because here's what he doesn't realize. Peer review is where scientific theories go to get the ultimate test.
Yep.
They don't have to just withstand a overview. They don't have to just withstand a quick glance over.
Oh, no.
They have to stand up indefinitely.
Yep. Because
That's the whole point of peer review.
guess what?
And
You
if you're
send your shit in
referencing
for peer
something
review,
like
You send your shit in for peer review. They don't just read your paper. They read your paper and they look at the process you did and they set it up. And if they get different
Exactly,
fucking
they
results,
test the methodology.
if they get different fucking results, you're fucked.
Here's the deal. Anything submitted to peer review is scrutinized hard. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
Anything sent to peer review is going to be picked the fuck apart. Now here's the disconnect. When it comes to peer review, if you have to submit something to, say, geoscience, that's not a peer-reviewed journal. If I'm remembering correctly, that's the name of the journal that creationists made to submit their results to others in creationism.
Yep.
That's not peer review.
Nope.
If you want to submit something to peer review, you have to submit it to the mainstream science journals.
Mm-hmm.
And if they can pick it apart and find flaws and pick your shit apart and show where you're wrong, then you don't have anything worth considering. That's the problem. If you don't have anything worth considering, then you have essentially got to go back to the drawing board and try again.
Yep.
That's the end of it.
All right.
If you're submitting something to actual peer review, expect to get it picked apart. Expect to get it fucking ripped to shreds. And if it survives that process, if it survives getting thrown to the fucking jackals, you've got something worth considering.
Yep.
If not, shut the fuck up and try again.
All right. We have got 2 minutes and 51 seconds left. We're hitting his
Go
wrap
for
up
it.
point. Let's see what happens.
Other video, but it seems like it could use a more personal touch in this case. So how do I put this?
Watchmaker.
Yes, a watch, a car, a building, or whatever other man-made examples of engineering we have does require a designer. The key point this argument omits is that those things are not alive. They cannot reproduce naturally on their own like life can. They do not experience mutation or selective pressures like life does. Life does not require a designer, and one is not indicated anywhere. If there was a designer indicated, I would concede that point, and we would not be having this particular discussion.
This really seems to me to be a distinction without a difference. So everything requires a designer except life. Even if I give you that, what about viruses? Evolution claims that viruses are not alive because they cannot reproduce without a host. How long have viruses been around? Where did they come from?
Yep.
Were they around when the first amoeba spontaneously formed in the middle of the ocean? Did they come after?
I don't
They couldn't have
know,
existed
and
before
it
because they
doesn't
didn't have a
matter.
host. Viruses themselves are evidence of design. They are distinct
they're
from
not.
nature,
No,
and from the
they are
evolutionist
fucking
worldview,
not.
they are not alive. So I will be expecting you to concede that viruses at least indicate that a creator might have been involved. I don't expect
they
you
don't.
to admit that viruses
you're
were
gonna be
created, obviously,
disappointed.
but I do feel that the existence of viruses at least raises some questions that
No, they
evolution.
don't.
And he's going to be disappointed because both videos, both responses to this do not concede that point at all. Viruses are not alive, and they are not an indication of a designer at fucking all.
No, they're not.
Period.
But I see you figure
End
out.
of fucking discussion.
Yep. He is so wrong there, it's not even funny. That's another example of what I was talking about earlier, the fractal wrongness. He's so goddamn incorrect, he's not even wrong.
Exactly. Press play.
Oh.
We
doesn't
have
the answers for
a
it.
minute
Even
and
if I
40
concede
seconds.
that a designer kick-started the universe or made the first cells, which I don't, due to a lack of evidence, that still does nothing to disprove evolution. If there were any evidence against evolution, and I am aware of none, that is not simultaneously evidence of a designer. You need both if you want to say that creation is a better model.
Okay, challenge accepted. I will add 2 videos to my list. One will be proving that evolution is totally fabricated, at least as far as the historical aspect of it goes, and another proving that creation is an undeniable fact. Expect those videos sometime in the near future. And I want to respond to your last statement because I think it is pretty much exactly what I want to say to you.
The length of this is not deliberate, but it was necessary. I have unfortunately only been able to cover
That
some
is
of
true.
the things
I
briefly,
have
so
to
if you want me to
pause.
expand on it, please, so if you want
The
me to.
length of that video that he's responding to was not deliberate. I am completely honest in that I was keeping things as brief as I possibly could be while still making the valid points that I needed to make.
You know what we need to do?
On that note, as soon as he publishes a video on creation being a better model than evolution,
Yeah.
I'm going to be all over that. I'm already going to have to be all over his whole 100 questions to evolutionists or whatever the fuck else that fucking video you were exposed to last night.
Oh, God, that horror show.
I'm already going to have to cover that, and a lot of it has already been covered. The problem is when he recorded that video, despite me being on top of this shit, he had not watched my responses.
Because he doesn't care about our responses.
He is unaware of the responses that I've already put to him. By his own admission.
Yep.
At this point, as of this live stream, he has seen part of my answer to this particular video. To my knowledge, he has not watched to its entirety the second part of the original response to the video that we're covering here.
Oh no, because he doesn't want
if he has not
information.
Exactly. If he has not watched those, a lot of the questions that he's asking, it almost to the point. I watched that video that whole 100 questions for evolutionists, and a lot of those questions seem to be pulled directly from what I have already told him.
It was so
that
bad.
Shows a concerning lack of ability to listen to what he's fucking told. I'm not just talking out of my ass. I'm not pulling this shit right out of my ass.
Yep.
MYH16. I'm not pulling that out of my ass.
Yep.
That is something that he needs to fucking address.
He won't.
But regardless of that, everything that he's asking, half the questions actually that he's asking in that video, I've already covered. And he admitted to me in his own comment section that he has not seen the videos concerning those questions. He needs to see those videos. He needs to see those videos and address those videos and the relevant points contained therein. If he cannot do that, then he's got two choices that he's going to have to come to terms with.
Well, he's going to have to keep
two directions. No, he's got two directions he can go. He can admit that he is ignorant of the facts and admit that he was wrong and correct himself.
Or keep lying.
Or he can willfully maintain his ignorance. Those are the only two options that he has. And I am hoping beyond all fucking hope. I'm investing more energy into him than is necessary and really more energy than he deserves. I'm hoping beyond hope that he takes the first option and admits his error.
Hey, Adam.
Because the other kid that I'm dealing with in the Threat of God series obviously doesn't give a flying fuck about what the facts are.
Hey, Adam.
So I'm hoping that I can reach at least one fucking person throughout this entire fucking process.
Hey, Adam. Prepare to be disappointed.
I know.
Oh, and when he releases his video that proves creationism, I say we do a 666-minute live stream.
I am so down with that.
Just 666 minutes of tearing into it. But we have
I'm not even going to lie. At this point, I would sacrifice our game time for that.
Yep. Well, maybe we'll tie the game into it just so we can have a little break.
Oh, let's get Dragon in there. Yes.
Oh yeah, that'll be good. But we have 49 seconds. We're going to let this play for 49 seconds. Go.
Let's finish.
X to dial.
Let me know.
I would also like to apologize for the length of this video. If you managed to watch all this, and you have any questions, or require any clarifications,
God,
let me
watching
know.
this was hard.
I gotta say, I really
Watching
enjoyed your video.
Hold on.
Disagreements aside, it was well researched. You're well spoken, and the video was well edited. Your videos are pretty much superior to
Why
my
is he
videos in
sucking
almost
your
every
dick?
way. But hopefully not for too long.
Hold on,
I would like to
wait for
publicly
it.
thank you for recommending a free-to-use video editing software. I'm able to do so much more than I was before thanks to you. Thank you for taking the time to respond to my video in a reasonable way. And I think I actually learned a few things. I feel I've said everything that needs to be said.
He learned a few things.
Okay, so the video software that he is praising me for is DaVinci Resolve.
Mm-hmm.
That's the program that I use to make all my videos, and a program that you yourself have started using.
Yep.
Now, aside from that, the video length that he's apologizing for, I understand that he has some issues that may need to be clarified in future videos. However, I was literally sincere when I told him that I was trying to be as brief as possible. I'm literally cramming as much information as I can. If I were to cover his whole video, it would have been an hour long. And the next video that I'm doing on him concerning the political compass test that he took,
Oh God, I'm not even touching that.
that don't even. I mean, I go through that, and it is. I just got done with the raw footage, and on Twitter, I warned everyone this would be pushed out a week beyond its original schedule because there's so much to cover.
And the
and
fact
life
that he's
happens.
eating during that video.
It's not even that. Really, honestly, life happened, and I have lost like 2 or 3 days of editing time.
Yep.
So it's behind schedule. I'm not gonna lie. After the week that I've had, it's behind schedule through things that are beyond my control.
Oh, I think right now
But-
we're all behind schedule.
No, I'm
But
not.
to be clear, fuck you.
That's because you don't have a schedule, you cocksucker.
I do.
But
I try to
anyway.
stream every Thursday, but you guys took it from me.
Anyway, hey, you're still streaming, so we didn't take your schedule from you. But anyway, his political compass test that he took, I had to go through and break down bit by bit. That video, I'm not gonna lie, I'm gonna be straight fucking forward here, is going to be about an hour long. I'm not even kidding. And I just got done with the raw yesterday. I got done with the raw recording of me answering this crap.
Jesus.
And all I have to input all my answers, all his answers, and his results and my results. That's all I got left to do, but that's going to take a bit.
Mm-hmm.
And he was surprised that he wound up being authoritarian, and I'm gonna explain that throughout this entire fucking video.
Yeah, him winding up
I'm not pushing it.
authoritarian doesn't surprise me at all.
I'm not pushing it up in the schedule because I'm concerned with quality, not quantity.
Mm-hmm.
So if I'm going to do this video, if I have to push it back a week, and I already put that out on my Twitter, I had to push it back. Because I want people to not only have accurate information, but I want it to be, quality.
sufficient quality.
I don't want to rush it. I don't want to rush it. I've done that before, and it fucking backfired on me. But at this point, I'm doing this as quick as I can, and my schedule has been pretty much revamped from that point forward. But after that, there are a couple of things that I'm going to be covering, and in particular, it's me and you covering Hovind's Day 1 of Creation.
Oh, Sin.
That's what I'm wondering.
We're live.
Oh, yeah. Well,
We're live,
that.
Yep.
Well, yeah. So,
Okay.
day one of Creation from Hovind's Science Center is going to be what I'm aiming for with me and you covering next.
Yep. Yep.
And that's a 2 week gap from the point that I release the next video. That's a 2 week gap. So we've got plenty of time to do that. And we're going to take a break from Erasmus
Yep. And
to cover Hoban.
I think as far as the first live stream goes, we have successfully tested it, and someone else wants to jump into the chat we're using. So I think it's time we
Who's
kill
that?
the stream.
Oh, do we
it's a
have
good-
to?
We could still talk, but enjoy the giant infinity windows, everyone. The first stream is ending.